if we reform the immigration system, which is all broken, then this problem that you just mentioned takes care of itself. We should not be encouraging illegal immigration. What we should be doing is setting up a smart, legal immigration system that doesn't separate families, but does focus on making sure that people who are dangerous, people who are, gangbangers or, or criminals, that we're deporting them as quickly as possible, that we're focusing our resources there.
All right, maybe put a little more eloquently, but nonetheless, nobody in the media is talking about this. Donald Trump pointed this statement out by President Obama, talking about illegal immigration and how we don't want criminals and gangbangers. Gangbangers, ooh, that's very rude. Joining us now is Carol Roth, CNBC contributor, author of the New York Times bestseller, The Entrepreneur Equation, and Brad Hirschfield. He is author of You Don't Have to Be Wrong for Me to Be Right, and the president of CLAL. Welcome to both of you. All right, so Carol, let's weigh in on what the president said and the language the president used, and nobody batted an eye there, did they?
He could have used the same language and nobody would have batted an eye, because whenever somebody from the left says something, it goes completely unnoticed. And whenever somebody from the right says something, they take it completely out of context, mix it up, and create a headline that nobody reads past. And that seems to be a pattern that happens over and over again throughout the broader media. I'm not the biggest Donald Trump fan in the entire world, but that being said, I don't think it's fair that they took his quote out of context. And like you said, there are plenty of other people like the president who have made similar comments which are not untrue, and yet nobody seems to care about that. They only want to jump in on that headline when it suits their narrative.
And Brad, keep in mind I'm wearing my Donald Trump, and it's his tie, like the one they've banned from Macy's now. I'm wearing my Donald Trump tie. So weigh in. Go ahead.
Look, the fact that the mainstream media has a left bias is not news. That's an old story, and anyone who wants to have that fight, we can do it. But most journalists admit they lean left. These are completely not analogous situations. There was nothing out of context. Donald Trump stood up before America the night he wanted to announce his candidacy for the presidency and described most immigrants, illegal or otherwise, from Mexico as rapists and drug dealers. It was outrageous, and it was stupid, and it was offensive. The fact is, Ari Fleischer said it best. Watching this man run for president is like watching a train wreck. Everyone pulls over to take a look, but it's actually a bad thing.
All right, well, let me give you some information here. Ann Coulter wrote a piece, so she was on Fox with this as well. For instance, she said, here's the Los Angeles PD list of most wanted. Jesse Enrique Manarez, Cesar Augusto Nistal, Jose Padilla, Demiso Carlos Perez, Raymond Reyes, Victor Vargas, Ruben Villa, and she says the full most wanted list doesn't get any better. There aren't a lot of Mexicans in New York State, she says. Half of all Mexican immigrants in the U.S. live in either Texas or California, and yet there are more Mexican prisoners in New York than there are inmates from all of Western Europe. So, I mean, there are drug dealers, there are rapists, there are criminals that come from Mexico. And by the way, Brad, by definition, every Mexican and everyone else that comes into this country illegally is already a criminal. By definition.
That's definitely true. If we want to talk about that and not make it a racist rant and talk about the problem.
Racist?
Because, Steve, you are smart enough to know that when you class an entire group of people.
He didn't.
Yes, he did.
There are many good people,
I'm
too.
sure he said, no, he did. He said, I'm sure some of them are good. No, he did. He made
wait,
a stupid.
so
Carol, let me finish.
Carol,
let me finish, and then you can tell me how wrong I am. No problem.
And you don't have to be wrong for him to be right.
No problem. The bottom line is, anyone trying to back into a defense of this is making a terrible mistake, however they feel about the issue. Because in the end, you have to be able to look a racist in the eye and say, you're a racist.
Come on, he's not a racist. He employs more minorities than anybody in the world. We're coming back. Carol, you'll start when we come back. Don't go away. All right, folks, back with the Malzberg panel, Carol Roth and Brad Hirschfield. And Carol, it's your turn. We were debating the Donald Trump remarks on Mexicans.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I really feel like they were taken out of context. I feel like they were not eloquently said. And listen, as I said before, I'm not a huge Trump fan, but the reality is if he can get the Republican nomination, he will beat Hillary. I mean, we live in a nation where more people know all the Kardashians than can name the vice president. He's got great brand awareness, and even though he is rough around the edges, all he needs to do is pick Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz as his VP. This entire discussion goes away, and he actually has a shot.
And Ted Cruz has already defended him on the remarks he made, I believe. Now, along these lines, let's switch gears to the Confederate flag. And again, just as you say, you think it's possible Trump could win, and anybody who would, who gets their news from mainstream media would say, "What? Everybody in the world hates Trump. How could you say that?" Because the media often misrepresents purposely, or because they have their own liberal bias, as Brad alluded to earlier, what America really believes, whether it's on abortion or other issues. And now, a CNN poll on the Confederate flag. 57% of Americans see the Confederate flag more as a symbol of Southern pride than as a symbol of racism. And that's the same number that it was in 2000. So again, if you watch the news, you would think, oh my God, burn it, get rid of it. Everybody knows it's a symbol of racism and hatred, and that's not what America believes, Brad.
Turns out they're both right. It is a symbol of pride and heritage for many people, and it is also a symbol of racist hatred for others. That's how it is with powerful symbols. What we've done here is actually to assume it can only be one or the other. So we get silly, naive defenses of the Confederate flag on the one hand, and unnecessarily hateful and hostile attacks upon it on the other. Scrubbing it from all of our culture is stupid. It is a part of our past. And it's also worth noting that to the extent that flag is a symbol of racism, racial attitudes in the North, the Civil War, were about the same as they were in the South. So everyone needs to step back and understand powerful symbols carry multiple messages, and the issue is how you use that message, not how you ban a symbol.
Carol?
And not only that, I mean, I agree with what Brad said, but we have to remember that having a diversity of opinions and not agreeing on things is completely okay and is actually very welcome. It's what makes America America. We're in a situation where it seems like anytime somebody's offended by anything, that people somehow now think that that's a violation of their civil rights, which it's not. Being offended is not any sort of violation. It's part of the fabric of having different people and diversity. And instead of embracing that and understanding that's a part of who we are, it seems like anytime anyone's offended by something that we try and pull it out. And I've made the point before, whether it's Gone with the Wind or something like the movie 16 Candles, there's always something that's offensive to some group in our elements of pop culture, and we don't want to live in a completely sanitized world.
Well, it's interesting because TV Land has pulled the Dukes of Hazzard episodes because of the Confederate flag on the car, I guess, which is just, it's insane.
It's insane. I mean, it's on the hood. It's not even. It's on the hood of the car. It's a decor on the car. You're going to pull an entire TV series because you don't like the decor on the hood of the General Lee. I mean, that makes absolutely
Brad,
no sense.
this is the intolerance of the left.
Yeah, look, intolerance is not owned by any one segment of the culture. What we would have to stop doing is fighting about whose intolerance is worse and understand that intolerance of this kind is stupid when it's advanced by either side. The Dukes of Hazzard example is perfect. You're going to get rid of an entire series because of a symbol when, as presented, is clearly not hostile because you can't tolerate the presence of anything that once upon a time is used by some people badly. If we do that, there will be no symbols, there will be no culture, there will be no nothing. We will simply divide into two ugly warring camps, each of which wants only what it wants, when it wants, and as it wants it. Actually, that sounds more like Soviet Union or China than it does like the United States. I don't think that's where we want to be.
And it is very frightening, as the next step after this gay marriage ruling is going to be. It already is. It's already talked. They were talking about, hey, if you have religious objections, and you're the same as the people who didn't want blacks to marry whites, and they're going to come after tax-exempt status, and we're all in a lot of trouble in this country if we continue down this road. But I want to thank both of you, Carol and Brad. Have a great 4th of July, and be safe, and we'll reconvene at a later date.
Great. Happy 4th.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, take care. All right, folks. And by the way, the unemployment number is out. The unemployment rate drops, but of course, the labor force participation is at a new low since 1972. 1972, was the last time it was this low. 93,626,000 people not in the labor force. By the way, Robert Spencer, director of Jihad Watch, will join us. First, we want to tell you about Newsmax wanting to send one lucky couple on a 7-day Silver Sea cruise to the Caribbean this winter. And it's a luxury cruise aboard the Silver Wind. It is the trip of a lifetime. To win, you need to enter our sweepstakes. Visit newsmax.com/sweepstakes. That's newsmax.com/sweepstakes. And enter, and good luck.